Hey, Michael Church, Crawl Space Ninja, Basement Ninja, and I'm here with Joseph Hillenmeyer of Aprilaire. And if you recognize Joseph, he's done a couple of videos with us in the past. And Aprilaire just launched a new ERV product that they're very excited about. He just got back from, what was it, Joseph? The International Builders Show? What'd you do?
International Builders Show in Las Vegas, one of the largest trade shows in the country, and really draws a whole lot of folks in that are in the new construction industry, as well as the home remodeling industry. Really, anybody making new homes or making improvement to existing homes is in the audience. So it was a good fit for this product.
Very good. Well, I'm going to let you kind of roll with this ERV explanation. I'm a little weak on my ERV knowledge, so I appreciate you coming on board and explaining to everybody that watches our videos what that is. So take it away. Tell us about this new product that you guys launched.
Thank you, Michael. And, as we kind of mentioned before we started here, kind of a theme at the show, honestly, is a lot of people are a little confused, I think, about what an ERV is and why current codes and maybe raters and other factors are pushing that over other ventilation solutions or having no ventilation solutions at all. So really, an energy recovery ventilator is a form of balanced ventilation. So instead of just bringing air in as you would with a supply solution, or just bringing air out as you do with an exhaust solution, be that a range hood, a whole house fan, or a bath fan that's running continuously, a balanced solution is bringing in exactly the same amount or very close of supply air from a controlled point and a controlled airflow, and then also sending out an equal amount of exhaust airflow, again pulling it from a controlled location, sending it out at a controlled location with comparable CFM. So you're putting the house under balanced airflow, balanced pressure. You're avoiding creating a negative pressure situation in the home, which is a problem you could see with exhaust ventilation and something we want to avoid. The benefit to it over supply ventilation is not only are the airstreams balanced, but in an ERV and to some extent an HRV, you're getting some transfer there of the conditioned air. So you're able to preserve some of the conditions in the home. As you bring in that raw outdoor air, obviously introducing heat and humidity would create a load issue on the house, right? You've now brought in heat and humidity that need to be managed by the heating and air conditioning system, depending on what time of year it is. By using this ERV, and it has a core in the middle of it, where the airstreams never actually touch. They both go through sort of this separate set of flutes that's in this core, and it's able to transfer sensible on the HRV side and sensible and latent on the ERV side. So of course, heat and humidity on the ERV side. So what that's going to do is, instead of just that raw air coming right in, that creates two problems. One, as I mentioned, it's going to be an energy efficiency problem, but two, it's going to be a comfort problem as well, right? I mean, imagine the middle of winter, you just open up a window to let air in. You're going to notice that. That's going to feel like a draft. And while there's a lot of things we can do on supply ventilation to avoid that, balance is going to be the best way to really kind of temper that air as we bring it in. So that's number one on the comfort side. Why we're seeing some new codes and things in the building industry push this, and as I'm sure you've talked about on here before, overall we're just seeing tighter envelopes, right, in new houses and in certainly tightening up existing homes. And as we've done that, there's been, the industry caught up very quick that you need to start bringing fresh air in when you do that. It's okay to make these homes super tight for energy efficiency, but it doesn't change the fact that the people in them need to breathe air, and they preferably need to breathe healthy air, right? So anything we can do to bring in healthy air, we need to go ahead and do that. Now, sort of the two things you run into is one is that outdoor air healthier. Most of the time it is, because it's going to be used to replace stale indoor air that's been built up with VOCs and contaminants that came from inside. But certainly using filters and other methods, we can make sure that outdoor air is healthier by removing some of the things in it that we don't want. Again, the second is the introduction of humidity. A big thing we've seen, in newer, tighter homes with builders who are kind of working with ventilation for the first time, is failing to consider how much humidity you can bring into the home when you bring outdoor air in, and the need to manage that when you do it. Certainly an ERV is going to help on that side of things. And because it's preserving some of those indoor conditions, it's helping with energy, and energy code is a big part of what's requiring ventilation. And that's because, again, energy code is telling you how tight the house needs to be, but then it's recognizing that fresh air needs to come in. So the energy code is kind of balancing that need for fresh air with the need for it to be efficient. So they tell us to look at some things like efficacy, which is how much air do we bring in versus, the wattage of the equipment, how much power are we using to bring it in. That's driving product selection to an extent. A climate zone, what else might we do when we bring that air in, such as, introducing heat, humidity, etc. And then how much airflow do we need to bring in, which it typically goes to the residential code for that, which references what we call 62.2, which has a couple of different years. For the most part, we see 62.2 2010, and that's just going to show you how much airflow you should bring in based on the size of the house and the amount of square footage in it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't mean to cut you off. I got a couple of questions for you real quick because you're throwing out some numbers. And I just want to say real quick, for those of you that have a home that you're not planning on building, we're going to talk a little bit later about why an ERV would be an advantage for you, because I feel like, I don't want to lose you. Right? This is new construction talk. I don't want to hear that. So just give us a minute. We're going to go through the new construction side. But Joseph did a video about latent air, latent load, all that. And we're going to put because you brought that up, and I just want to make sure that people understand. If you want to learn more about what latent load is and all that, I'm going to put a video to that down below so you can learn about that. But I just wanted to mention, Joseph, from a contractor, waterproofer, someone who cares about indoor air quality, what we're seeing is there's a lot of drafty houses out there. And of course, everybody wants to save energy. Everybody wants to do everything they can to be comfortable. But what an ERV does is, as we air seal those homes, it allows you to control where the air comes from, that you can either filter that air or raise or lower the humidity as needed, or all that. Is that basically kind of wrapping it up, what the advantage of an ERV is versus just leaving your home drafty all over? Is that right?
Those are the bullet points. And as you mentioned, I threw out a lot of numbers there, and that's kind of the segue to existing home. There's a whole list of things that force new construction to do this. It doesn't change any of the facts that there's tons of benefits already. And frankly, a lot of existing homes are already experiencing that, and homeowners themselves are already requesting it, because in actuality, these problems are usually not recognized because a code official comes in and says you haven't done it. They're recognized because the person living in that home starts to experience these problems. And often it's after some type of an energy retrofit. And by that, I mean, new windows, new siding. Maybe they've spray foamed an attic. Maybe they've encapsulated a basement or a crawl space. They've done something that's changed the envelope of that house from when it was built. And that could very quickly lead to all of a sudden noticing that I smell last night's dinner considerably longer than I used to. Now, when someone takes a shower, instead of that humidity kind of just, maybe sitting in the bathroom like it used to, I'm feeling it all over the house. And it seems like it takes a lot longer for it to dissipate. Likewise, there are some real health issues you can experience if that house gets significantly tighter without that new ventilation being, as we see levels of CO2 build up, that can cause fatigue, brain fog. Imagine, kind of breathing into a bag, right? I mean, when you've got a lot of CO2 in the house, it's almost sort of like hyperventilating to an extent. So people will start to notice those things, and also during a remodel, you may have had paint done, wood flooring put in. A lot of those things are going to use mastics and glues that are going to have a lot of off-gassing of VOCs. In an older, less tight home, right, those odors might clear out pretty quick. The renovation job is over and you're not noticing maybe a couple of days after that. But if you've tightened up the home considerably at the same time, that paint smell might stay around for a while. And I think, as anyone knows, if you've ever stained wood or painted even with a low VOC paint, you might not feel great right after that job has been done. So having a fresh air solution when that project is being done, so that as soon as it's complete, that home can start to have those air exchanges that it's no longer receiving because of that upgrade, is going to be essential for a homeowner. And even if you had it done a while ago, maybe think back to, wow, I went to some super energy efficient windows a little bit ago. I spray foamed my attic. Did anybody ever talk to you about the fresh air side of this? And if they didn't, maybe now's the time to consider that.
Yeah, because correct me if I'm wrong, but in Tennessee, I don't know, you're not in Tennessee, you're in Wisconsin, but in Tennessee, commercial buildings, for example, if I was to build a new commercial building, there is an air exchange requirement to bring in outside air into a commercial building. And I know they're doing it now with residential buildings, but that wasn't always the case. They would basically allow you to breathe recycled air through your HVAC system. So there was not a new air requirement, but now there appears to be that, which is why you've developed this product. But one of the other things I used to always talk about is when I had my first son, Asa, who's now going on 19 years old, I was researching indoor air quality. And of course, new parents, what do? You paint the room, you buy new furniture, you put down new carpets, new drapes, all that stuff. Then you take the person with the weakest immune system, which is your baby, and you put them in this VOC toxic environment because all of that stuff is off-gassing, you know? And VOCs are overlooked in my opinion because everything that we use now, whether it's drywall mud, paints, whatever, it's all giving off some kind of VOC or off-gassing, and some of them off-gas really quick. But what this does is it allows for that, and I didn't even think about humidity. That was such a good thing that you brought up about the humidity staying around longer, because how many people seal up their house, but they don't install a dehumidifier, for example, right? I mean, that's another good advantage is maybe you should be doing an ERV and looking at a whole home dehumidification system so that you're addressing that humidity and air exchanges as well.
Absolutely. And I think that's a great segue. I said at IBS, we had to have discuss, which is the International Builder Show, by the way, unfortunate acronym for them, but we talked about people came up with their ideas of what an ERV is. But a lot of it was also setting them straight on what it is. I think you brought up the best point there is an ERV in most cases is probably not going to eliminate the need for a dehumidifier, especially if you have things in the house that are creating, indoor RH issues. A dehumidifier is the product that is going to lower absolute humidity. It is actually removing moisture from the air. In my explanation of the ERV, remember, we're just using some of that conditioned air in the house to temper some of that outdoor air as it comes in. So we're really restricted to the delta on temperature and humidity between those two air streams. We don't really have the ability to lower the absolute number there. So while it preserves it and adds less load to the home and certainly makes the comfort of that fresh air coming in improved and the health of it improved over having no recovery solution, it certainly does not negate the need for a dehumidifier, particularly if you're in a moist southern climate or in a crawl space application where, again, as I'm sure you've talked about in previous videos, right, that stack effect, bringing that up through the entire house, you're still going to want to manage that with a dehumidifier and telling builders, this isn't going to solve all your humidity problems. It's going to make the ones on fresh air less than they used to be.
Right.
There are other things that cause humidity in a home besides fresh air ventilation that will still need to be addressed.
Well, and to the homeowner's credit, we always want to look for the one size fits all solution. And unfortunately, that's not the case. I've done videos about, do radon fans control humidity? And yeah, they may a little. And you all make a radon ventilation system, a radon fan. But again, it's not a replacement for a dehumidifier. The HVAC system is not a replacement for a dehumidifier, just like the ERV is not a replacement for a dehumidifier. All of these things are needed and they all have their primary job and they may have some overlap in some areas. But yeah, I think it's great that you're sharing this information. We want to get these homes air sealed and as energy efficient as possible, but we don't want to forget about that fresh air that we're supposed to bring in. Real quick, if you don't mind, I don't know if this was planned in your talk. Is there a difference between an ERV and an HRV? If you just want to share real quick what that is.
Yes. And without getting overly technical on it, an ERV is going to have that transfer of both the temperature and moisture, so sensible and latent. It's going to manage both of those in the airstream. An HRV is not. It's only going to, have sensible transfer. So it's only going to manage the heating side of it. Applications for that, benefits to each. You're less likely to see a core freeze up on an HRV because that moisture is not collecting in the core like it would be on an ERV on its way back out. Although current ERVs are included, all have various defrost methods, to help keep that core clear. HRVs almost always have a drain as well because you're not taking that moisture out. It's building up and you're sending it through a condensate line somewhere. So that's really the main differences between the two. And then within both of those categories, there's obviously a number of different, how much heat do they transfer? How much humidity do they transfer? What CFM are they? So, if a homeowner gets on and sees multiple different units out there, those are mostly very application specific. And honestly, a lot of those applications probably apply to various things in new construction, where if you're in an existing home, I think the unit that we'll talk about a little bit more today is probably going to cover the vast majority of situations on the ERV side.
Now, I don't even think we've mentioned what it is. It's the Model V22 BEC. Is that correct? That's the one we're talking about. And is that replacing the 8100 or is it an additional to the 8100?
It's going to replace the 8100. They're both a roughly 120 CFM ventilator, which again means they'll cover a house up to probably around 6,000 square feet and 4 to 5 bedrooms, some variation there depending on final delivered airflow. But compared to the 8100, what we've been able to do is reduce the size of the product, length, width, the weight considerably. We've taken 25 pounds out of the weight of it. We've managed to reduce the cost, which is fantastic. It's not often in the product world that you get to make something better and reduce the cost of it.
Right.
So that's obviously been a huge benefit there. We have two independent motors that can each be set at their own speed. And the benefit to that, is as we talked about, the effectiveness of these products is based on that balancing of airflow. Do you have as much going in as you do going out? Our old product had a single motor with two separate squirrel cages on it. So while you had two different air streams, to balance them, we put a damper on after that where you kind of choke down airflow on one versus the other. And that was how you got them into balance. And I will add the need to balance, just in case someone's saying, well, why wouldn't you just turn it on and set both fans to the same speed? Well, you got to remember that you've got some of these are drawing outside air, some are feeding to the inside. You have two on the inside, two on the outside. There's different statics, there's different number of bends in the ductwork that might be in there. You're probably not overall delivering the same airflow on the supply and exhaust side unless you balance that solution. So providing an easier, more effective way to balance is certainly one of the most core improvements that we've made to this new product.
That's great.
So like the 8100, there's absolutely nothing about the V22 BEC that won't be better.
Well, we're going to make the V22 BEC available on our DIY store. So if you want to check out DIY.crawlspaceninja.com, whether you're a homeowner that wants to install this for yourself or a contractor that is installing this for other homeowners, we're going to have it available for both of you. And is there a climate specific, like for example, does this do better in your warmer southern versus like up in Canada? Or is this something that it doesn't matter where you live, it would be great to install? Tell me a little bit about that if you don't mind.
I would say no matter where you live, it would be a good product to install. You're going to get some payback from that energy efficiency, right? Because you're delivering that in while preserving some of the indoor conditions. In very, very dry climates, there can be the benefit there that you'll preserve some of that humidity in the home that's so precious. For a long time, we heard that in a dry climate, why not just use an HRV? You're not bringing in humid air. All right, well, you're not bringing it in, but you are sending it out, right? And, again, I was just in Las Vegas. This is why I sound terrible. Not that, the conditions in a casino aren't great anyway, but you combine them with air that was, at 20 to 22% RH the entire time we were there. I mean, that's not comfortable, especially to people who aren't from there. I think as more and more people move to Arizona from more traditional Midwest, Northeast, Southeast climates, they're going to notice the dry air impact that an ERV would still be a benefit in a dry climate. In a southern climate, we're going to be in that area that you talked about where, hey, an ERV is a benefit, but don't forget about your dehumidifier, right? So it's going to help, but you're still bringing in humid air that you wouldn't have been bringing in if you were doing nothing at all. And if you didn't have a dehumidifier before that, you're very likely going to want one after that. Now, it might help you get a lower size dehumidifier, right? Maybe you need a little bit less capacity because you're handling some of that moisture before you bring it in. So it's going to work in that climate zone. It's going to give you benefits, but maybe think about what other latent loads, RH contributors you might have in the house before you make that your sole solution. Really, our sweet spot's going to kind of be, sort of those middle climate zones. Maybe a little bit like Kentucky, Southern Illinois, some of those areas. Kind of just think about that band there, where you're going to have a really good balance of heat and humidity, where you're not bringing in too much. Again, and all this is of course dependent on the time of year, correct? I mean, as we've discussed before, shoulder season is going to be your biggest enemy with any product that's bringing in fresh air, because your mechanicals aren't going to be running, your heating and your air conditioning, because the non-RH side of the equation isn't an issue, and then those things are only meant to turn on based on temperature. That's when you could really bring in a lot of RH without the means to do something about it if you're relying solely on HVAC.
I don't see how you guys in Wisconsin handle it. You got to have a dehu in the summer, a humidifier in the winter. You probably need an ERV, and I'd say you probably got an HRV. I mean, you got all of it, man. You got every little bell and whistle to ventilate and control humidity in the place for you guys.
Yeah, I've heard a story that Aprilaire came up from one of the founders' wives. I don't think I have the story exactly right, but she said, great air is Aprilaire, and I thought, yeah, in Wisconsin, that's probably true, right? So I think we have more than 30 days of great air, but we certainly have a whole lot of months where we've got to manage something, whether it's humidity. We have really bad pollen up here as well, so that need for air filtration on that side of it. And I love living here, but yeah, we have our challenges when it comes to indoor air for sure.
It sounds like you got some great products to handle all that. So yeah, exactly. And again, that goes to there is no one size fits all solution for all of these things. So a couple other things just real quick, 8100, the Aprilaire 8100 versus the V22 BEC. This one's moving more CFM. Is that right?
They're moving about the same CFM, actually,
Okay.
about 120.
Okay, about 120 CFM, 25 pounds less, as you mentioned. Yeah, so this looks like a great product that you got. We're pretty excited about it. You know, honestly, Crawl Space Ninja doesn't install this product at all. But since it has to do with indoor air quality, not that we couldn't, but normally that's your HVAC contractor that installs these ERVs, but it's part of air quality. That's why we want to bring this to our viewers and our listeners out there to make sure that they understand that this product is available. So, Joseph, anything else you want to share about this product?
One other thing you brought up that I was going to comment on is on the radon side of things. As you bring in fresh air and with an ERV, you're also exhausting it. That would certainly have a positive impact on radon. But that's also a situation where, let's remember that there's radon fans that are specifically designed to remove radon, pull that radon out from under the ground and get it into the house. Whereas when you're using a supply solution or a balanced solution, you're generally just diluting that level of radon. So does it have a positive impact? Of course it does. But again, if you've got really high radon levels in the home, and frankly, the requirement there is to use an actual radon product, right? Whether it's a passive pipe or an active system. So again, you use these products together, I think is the message here, right? I mean, you get everything you need to solve the problem. There is no one size fits all, depending on your climate zone, depending on how tight your home is, and depending on the size of your home, the exact product you're going to need for that application is going to change. But I think between Aprilaire and Crawl Space Ninja, everything they need is there.
If a customer has a direct question about this product that we maybe don't have the answer to, can they reach out to your customer support staff or anything like that?
Absolutely. The product's launched, so they are all trained up on that in regards to performance, pricing, maintenance, all of that. Any questions, our customer support team is ready to take those.
Well, that's great. I heard Brian a long time ago say the solution for pollution is dilution. Is that, am I saying that right? Yeah, that goes along with, you think about if you got arsenic in water, the way you can either filter it out or you can add more water, right? I mean, there's a couple of different ways to handle it. And some products get rid of the pollution and some products add more air to the pollution to make it less of a problem. So, that's where you're talking about a radon fan versus an ERV, for example. Is that right?
Right. Yep. Yeah. Benefits to both, but handling that same problem in different ways, preventing it from ever getting into the living space versus reducing it when it's in the living space.
Joseph, thanks again for coming on with us and appreciate you taking your time to educate everybody on our YouTube channel. I'm Michael Church with Crawl Space Ninja, and we hope you make it a happy and blessed day, and we'll see you later.